Welcome to EPG Pathshala Philosophy. I am Satchidanand Mishra from Banaras Hindu University, the Department of Philosophy and Religion, and I am working as a professor there. I am introducing these technical terms in Navyanyaya 2 and in the course Logic 2, and the writer of this module is Professor Ujjwala Jha. The objectives of this module is to make you acquainted with the concept of relation in Navyanyaya especially. In last module we were introduced to the concept of relation as explained in Navyanyaya, and also the kinds of relations, basically direct relations and indirect relations. We were also introduced to the particular relations, contact, inherence, and also self-linking relations. And so these all relations were introduced, and other indirect relations were also introduced simply, but now they are going to be discussed in detail in this module. So this is called, these are known as Parampara Sambandha in Nyaya philosophy, in Navyanyaya philosophy, and these are very important to understand, because whenever the Nayayikas formulate the concept of Vyapti or concept of Pakshata or something else, they heavily depend on this Parampara Sambandha, on this indirect relations. So in the previous module, as there was introduction to the relation like Samvaya, like Sanyoga, inherence, as well as contact, and Sarup Sambandha, that is known as self-linking relations. So these are very basic relations, and taking these basic relations, there is a possibility that we can formulate many indirect relations, because any indirect relation cannot be formulated without adding another relation. So when there is a basic relation, so we can say that direct relation is actually basic relation, and indirect relation is formulated from those basic relations, adding two or more relations together, and if those relations are added together, they make a Parampara Sambandha, an indirect relation. So that concept of indirect relation we are going to discuss in this module. And if one understands the concept of Parampara Sambandha, indirect relation, so the Navyanyaya language becomes very easy to understand, because in Navyanyaya always these indirect relations play very important role. So we will be discussing this example. There are some examples, and we will take one example first, and this example is color, threads and cloth. So color, Nayayikas are of this opinion that color of cloth and color of threads are different, two different things, because color is a quality and the threads is different substance, and pot is a different substance. So between threads and cloth there is a relation known as inherence, because threads and cloth, these are actually parts and whole, and between parts and whole there is a relation inherence. So we can understand very easily that the cloth is inherent in threads by the relation inherence. So this is one point here, and another point can be understood that the color of threads is inherent in threads. So between color of threads and threads there is a relation inherence, and between color of cloth and cloth there is a relation inherence. So these two are separate entities, and if you are talking about only one here and one there, you can say that the color of threads is inherent in threads and the color of cloth is inherent in cloth. But you can say that actually one color which is inherent in threads can be present in cloth also, and the color which is inherent in cloth can be present in threads also, but not directly but indirectly. So if we take an indirect relation, we can say very clearly and we can understand that this one is inherent there, and the relation is known as swa-samvai samvetatva. Swa means swa-samvai samvetatva. Whenever we take any indirect relation, we introduce this term swa. Swa means self, and this is the departure point of that relation. So this is very important to note. Whenever one indirect relation is there, there must be the word swa, and from this swa we go further, and this is the starting point, and it indicates that where the relation has to start. So this swa-samvai samvetatva. So we can say that the color of threads is present in cloth by the relation swa-samvai samvetatva. Swa means the color of threads, and that color of threads is inherent in threads, and in those threads the cloth is inherent. So in that way we can say that this color of threads is inherent in threads, and in those threads, in the same threads, that cloth is inherent. So by this relation swa-samvai samvetatva, being co-located in the same place by the relation inherence, so being inherent in this locus where it itself is inherent, as both the relators are collocated and both reside in the same locus by inherence, if we can say that this indirect relation is constituted by inherence. So color, thread and cloth, here beginning from color of threads we can go to the cloth, and we can say very easily and understand that this color of threads is present in cloth itself, but simply we cannot understand that there is any direct relationship is possible, but indirectly we can point out, and it is present there in cloth. So another example we can take here, the example of we can say that a person is sitting in the house and the person is having a stick and a pitcher. So the person who is having a stick and a pitcher, you can observe very clearly that the stick is related to the person and the pitcher is also related to the person, and here between stick and the person, between pitcher and the person, there is a relation sanyoga, that is conjunction or contact. But not only this, there is another way of saying, there is a one step more, and that another step is there, that the person is conjoined to the house. So you can say that directly the person is conjoined to the house, between the person and the house there is a relation conjunction, and here there is another piece of relation between stick and the person, between pitcher and the person. But if you add these two relations together, you can say swa sanyukta sanyoga, and here swa means the stick, or you can pick up the pitcher, and the pitcher is conjoined to the person and the person is conjoined to the house. So here this would be very simply that the stick and the pitcher are conjoined to the person and the person is conjoined to the house. Therefore by the relation swa-sanyukta samvaya, being conjoined by this relation, the stick and the pitcher both are conjoined to the house, both are related to the house. So in this way, by an indirect relation, stick and pitcher both are related to the house. So this can be understood, this another example can be understood here, and there are some more examples. And here how this is happening, In this case, how it is happening, we can simply understand that there were two sets of relations. One set was there between the pitcher and the person, and another set was there between person and the house. And in case of pot, in case of stick, there was one relation, there was one set of relation between stick and the person, another was between the person and the house, and these two relations, if are taken together, they make one relation, that is an indirect relation, which is swasanyogi sanyoga or swasanyukta sanyoga. So these two are very simply synonyms, and they are used, these two words are used interchangeably. So another way of saying it, because there is another possibility to understand this, the same scenario, and here we can also say that there is another relation, swashraya ashrayatva. So means here the same example is taken here again, and in this example swa means the same stick and or the same stick or the same pitcher, and the ashraya means locus. So locus of that pitcher is the person, and the locus of that person is the house. So in this case, by the directly the person is the person is the locus of the pitcher, but indirectly actually the house is the locus of the person as well as of that pitcher, because directly the person is situated in the house, the person is residing, but the person is present in the house, but indirectly not only the person is present in the house, but also the pitcher is also present in the house, and the stick is also present in the house by this indirect relation, because swa means if we take stick, and the ashraya of the locus of that stick is the person, and the locus of that person is the house. So we can say that by the relation swashraya ashrayatva, this is very easily understandable by this term. Swa means the self, ashraya means the locus, and locus of locus, the locus of that locus. In that way, one is taken and another is taken and then another is taken. So in that way you can add some more relations, and you will be able to formulate many relations. Not only this is not the case that only there should be two steps, but there could be infinite number of steps, a long number of steps, and those taken together make another relation, one another relation. In that way, in this case, in the present case, the house becomes the locus of the stick and also of the pitcher indirectly. So these indirect relations are very interesting from this point of view, that in direct relations there are only a few things which are related, as it was discussed in last module, that there are three basic relations, and those relations are considered as direct relations: inherence, contact, and self-linking relations. So in those cases there is a limitation, but in this case there is no limitation at all, and this is the very interesting point to note. You can imagine an indirect relationship of any length and taking any relatum and any relation of any number. So in this way we can say that if two things are apparently not related to each other, in that case also an indirect relationship is possible, as we have observed in this case that there is no direct relationship between the pitcher and the house, but because there is a relation between pitcher and the person, and there is another relation between the person and the house, therefore we can observe very clearly that however there is no direct relation, but there is an indirect relation available, and that indirect relation is swashraya ashrayatva, swasanyukta sanyoga, or swasanyogi sanyoga, whatever we call it. So all these relations are possible, and in this way there is no obstacle, nothing, no distance can harm here, no distance can be any obstacle, and we can observe, we can make that these two things which are situated in a very away from each other, there is also a possibility of indirect relationship. So in this way we can say that, simply, very interestingly, we can say that all Indians exist in England by an indirect relationship. So in direct relationship they can exist in England, like if suppose when there was a British rule in India, taking that point, in that time it could have been said that all Indians exist in England by the indirect relation, and the indirect relation would be the state of being the kingdom under the authority of their own ruler. So it could be formulated in Sanskrit in this way, that Swa Samrad Adhishtitatva. Swa means those people who are Indians, and the Samrat, the king of those people. Who is the king of those people? At that time the British ruler was the king of those Indians, and Adhisthita means that king is also ruling the England, and in that way these Indians could be present there by this relationship in that way. And we can formulate different way, that we can say that all English people reside in India, however they are actually in England, they are not in India by any direct relationship, but by an indirect relationship they are present here, and they can be present here, because there is also possibility of formulating another indirect relationship, that the state of being the empire of their own queen. So in that case we can observe that from this angle to another angle, and from that angle to this angle, there is a possibility of this indirect relationship, and this indirect relationship cannot have any limit, and there would not be any possibility which can make an obstacle. So in order to understand this indirect relationship, we take some examples, another examples. Simply, suppose we are taking A and B, and we can say that A is related to B and B is related to C. However, A is not related to C directly, but A is related to B and B is related to C, and we can say that however they are not related to each other directly, but indirectly there is also a relation between A and C, and this is the case here. The examples which we have discussed, in all those cases this is actually the case, because A is related to B. Suppose in place of A there is a picture, and in place of B there is the person, and in place of C there is the house, and here between picture and between picture and the person there is a relation conjunction, and between picture and the house there is a relation conjunction. So we can see very easily that however there is no direct relationship, but an indirect relationship is possible, and taking this indirect relationship we can formulate precisely that there is a relationship where apparently no relationship is perceived, no relationship is observed, but actually there is a relationship. But this is the very basic requirement for any for any indirect relationship, as there must be two things or more things, but there be relationship among them. Suppose if A is related to B and B is not related to C, we cannot say that A is related to C, because the chain is getting broken, and in so far the chain is not getting broken, we can formulate a long chain, and like the idea of an indirect relationship is something like very similar to the idea of a chain, where there are very small pieces, and those small pieces taken together could make a long chain, and taking that long chain, we can make 2 points connected with each other, 2 points related with each other. So in the beginning point, as we have explained that at the time when India was not free, at that time we can say that India was related, the people of India are present in England, and also we can formulate some other examples, some other relations. This is not one example that only that time it was possible. Nowadays also it is possible. We can formulate some relations, and according to those relations, it would be very easily possible to say that Indian people are present in America, like simply saying that being human beings, because in Indian people there is a universal manushyatva, there is a universal humanity, you can say humanity is present there, and because of this humanity is present in all those human beings which are present in America, which are living in America, and the ashray, the substratum, the substratum of those, the locus of those, that humanity is those person, and then again you can conceive the idea that those human beings are present there, and in that way we can say that these human beings are present in England or America or anywhere else. So this leaves you completely free to your imagination, how much you can imagine, but this point must be understood that this imagination is playing a role here in the formation of these relations, but these relations are present there. These are not imaginary, but these are real, because you are adding those relations which are the pieces of those basic relations are real. Therefore these indirect relations are also real. You cannot say that they are imaginary. So some more things about these indirect relations we can understand, and we should understand. The point is that we started the discussion on relation saying that relation is something closeness, but now we have come to the point where it was observed, it can be observed very clearly that there is no closeness, but there is a relation, because where there is any closeness between India and America, there is no closeness at all, but there is a relation, and there is an indirect relation. However, there is no direct relationship, but an indirect relationship. So we should note it here that relation is closeness is true only for the practical purposes, only with the reference to the direct relationship. So far as an indirect relation is concerned, distance is not a problem, and rather anything can be related to anything else in the universe by an indirect relationship. So all human beings can be related to any other human being by an indirect relationship, namely the state of being an object of grabbing by the same death. And even every living creature could be related to all other, because they all are living. So in that way everything could be related to each other. So the beginning point, that first relatum of indirect relation and first relatum will exist in the second relation. So these are 2 points which must be understood, because if these two are not taken into consideration, there will be the chain, and the chain will be broken. And so this point is to be understood here very clearly, that in so far the chain is not broken, there is a possibility of any indirect relationship, and the indirect relationship has no further boundary, no further limit. It can go with anywhere. It can relate to things which are present in 2 different places, in 2 different time span, wherever they are present, it has no problem at all. So now we are going to discuss another point, and the point is that vritti niyamak sambandh and vritya niyamak sambandh, because the point is that why these two terms were not introduced earlier, because unless we are very much acquainted with these two ideas of direct relationship and indirect relationship, we cannot understand what is the vritti niyamak sambandh and what is vritya niyamak sambandh. And the meaning of vritti niyamak sambandh, the relation which is occurrence exacting and the relation which is non-occurrence exacting. So the relation which is in simple terms, it can be understood that if there is something by that relation, we can say that it is present there, it is residing somewhere. In that case, the relation would be occurrence exacting relation. And if the other case is there, if there is no possibility of saying that something is present by the relation somewhere, then we cannot say that there is a vritti niyamak sambandh, there is an occurrence exacting relation. So the examples which we discussed earlier, those all examples, however, all not, though some of these examples are vritti niyamak sambandhas, occurrence exacting relations. So direct relations, these three direct relations, contact and inherence and self-linking relations, these are vritti niyamak sambandhas, occurrence exacting relations. So if there, but it must be remembered that there is a possibility that two things are conjoined between two things, there is a relation conjunction, but though that conjunction is not occurrence exacting relation. As in case of if our two hands are joined, one those are joined vertically without sitting on another. So in that case, that relation would not be considered as an occurrence exacting relation, because we cannot say that my one hand is on another. But if the point is something different, if I put my one hand on another hand, and in that case I can say that my one hand is there on my another hand, and in that case this conjunction would be an occurrence exacting relation. So occurrence exacting relations are there through which if there is an occurrence exacting relation, we can say that one is present somewhere by that occurrence exacting relation, and this occurrence exacting relation is actually a regulator or a specifier. Thus the compound word vritti niyamak, which is an adjective, means that relation which regulates or specifies the existence of something in a particular locus. So suppose there is a book on this table. So in that case, this conjunction is an occurrence exacting relation, because by this relation conjunction the book is present on the table. But the sky is related to this table, and between sky and this table there is a conjunction, but this conjunction is not actually an occurrence exacting relation, because the sky is actually conjoined to everything which is in motion, but the sky is not present everywhere. You cannot say that sky is there on this table. So there is no adharadheya bhava. So if there is adharadheya bhava, when there is such kind of understanding that some A is the locus of B, in that case if there is a relation, and because of that relation we are having such kind of idea that A is endowed with B by that relation, or on A, B is present by the relation, we can say that is an occurrence exacting relation. But if it is not the case, we cannot say that there is an occurrence exacting relation. So we can say that sky is not present on the table, and therefore, however, sky is, Akash is conjoined to the table, but this conjunction of Akash with table is not an occurrence exacting relation. And here conjunction is, so we can observe that conjunction is sometimes occurrence exacting relation, and sometimes it is not an occurrence exacting relation. When we say that there is a pot on the ground, bhutale ghata, in that case it would be, the conjunction would be occurrence exacting relation. And when we are saying that there is a pot in the house, and there is a cloth in the threads, there is an action, there is a movement in the fan, there is a color in a substance. In those cases, when I say that the chair has red color, in this case the red color is present in the chair, and the red color is actually a quality, and the chair is a substance. Between chair and this red color there will be inherence, the relation inherence, and inherence is always an occurrence exacting relation. So in these cases we can say that actually inherence is always occurrence exacting relation. But other examples, if we are taking like conjunction is not always occurrence exacting relation. But these indirect relation, what about these indirect relations? There is also a point to note that if you are making an indirect relation aiding those relations which are occurrence exacting relations, then that indirect relation would also be an occurrence exacting relation. And if you are aiding any one of non-occurrence exacting relations, then the whole indirect relation would not be an occurrence exacting relation. So this is the idea between these two, and this idea is depicted in Sanskrit language when we say that something, if we say that there is a pot on the ground, in Sanskrit we say bhutalam ghatvat. So in Sanskrit there is a suffix, it is known as matu, and this suffix indicates that if there is something which is present there, if pot is on the ground, then we can say bhutalam ghatvat, and we can say bhutale ghata. And this suffix very clearly indicates that actually there is a relation, and that relation is occurrence exacting relation, and it is very important to note. So in these examples it becomes very clear that if there is a relation and that relation is made from inherence, there will be that relation would be occurrence exacting relation. But this is not the guarantee with contact, because contact is not always occurrence exacting relation, because there are issues when there is a contact between two substances. One substance is not covering the other substance completely, but if there is a relation inherence between two substances, then you cannot say that one is separate from another. Those are very much connected with each other, and in that case one is present in another by the relation inherence, and that would be occurrence exacting relation clearly. So bhutalavat ghatavat bhutalam, when we say ghatavat bhutalam, the speaker says that the ground is the possessor of pot. So to denote that point that something is possessor of something, in this case it is all significance is given to the ground, and the pot simply becomes the thing possessed by the ground. Thus the speaker has made ground the prime qualificand, as he perhaps intends to say that the ground is such that it possesses a part, or that it is not empty. He focuses on the ground. So in this case there is a relation, occurrence exacting relation, and these two relations, inherence and conjunction, this point is different, that inherence is always occurrence exacting relation, but contact is not always in occurrence exacting relation, because the contact does not cover the whole locus, because two things are vertically related by the relation contact is not becoming in that case occurrence exacting relation. So then in this diagram we can observe very clearly that two relations, if there is an occurrence exacting relation, one is pointing to another, and if there is a occurrence non-exacting relation, then there is a relation between two things, and that relation is not pointing to another, and we cannot say that there is any adharadheya bhav in these two things. And when there is not adharadheya bhav, we cannot say that there is an occurrence exacting relation. So one example about non-occurrence exacting relation is that when we say that it is said that there is a swatva or swamitva. So there is a king's minister. So king's minister is there, so there must be a relation between king and the minister. Unless there is a relation between king and minister, you cannot say that he is the king's minister. But here the relation between king and the minister is not occurrence exacting relation. You can say that king and minister are related with each other, but you cannot say that minister is minister is the substratum of king, or minister is the adhar of king, because it is not possessor of here we cannot say that king is present in minister by the relation swamitva. So in this case this would not be an example of occurrence exacting relation, but it would be very clearly the example of non-occurrence exacting relation, because king and minister, these two are completely different but are related with each other, and we talk about here that king is related to minister, king is the master of that minister, and because king is the master of that minister, therefore we say that the minister is king's minister. So in this case, however, there is a relationship, but the relation is not, one is not the possessor of another. King is, we can say the uses like the king is the possessor of the minister, or the minister is on the king, is not found in such case. You cannot use these sentences, the examples, linguistic expressions that king is the possessor of the minister. Neither you can say that the minister is on the king, because here in this case these relations are not occurrence exacting relations. So from this discussion we can understand very clearly that occurrence exacting relations are there, and there are some non-occurrence exacting relations, and if there is an occurrence exacting relation, two objects in a horizontal position are present, then there is no relation. And if there is a possibility that two objects are present in a vertical position where one is pointing to another, then there will be one. If one is present vertically to another, then in that case there will be a vritti niyamak sambandha. And if two objects are present vertically without being related to each other in such a way that they could form the idea that one is possessor of another or one is on another. So this vritti niyamak sambandh creates the idea, creates the notion of adharadheya bhav, but this vritti niyamak sambandh does not create the notion of adharadheya bhav, and there, because of it, use of locative case bhutale ghataha or possessive suffix bhutalam ghatavad is always possible with vritti niyamak sambandh, but it is not used in vritti niyamak sambandh, because we say chaitrasya griham, but we don't use here that chaitravod griham, chaitrasya griham. When we are saying chaitrasya griham, we are saying that the chaitra is the name and chaitra is the owner of that house. So ownness is not something, such kind of relation through which something is present somewhere. To sum up this point, that how these two kinds of relations are there, direct and indirect relations, and how these two kinds of relations, direct and indirect relations, can be understood in a completely different way, that vritti niyamak and vritti niyamak sambandh, and in that way we can form a long chain of relations which are actually many times occurrence exacting relations and many times non-occurrence exacting relations, but those are very useful in formation of logical ideas, logical definitions, and as the Nayayikas do in case of Vyapti and in case of Pakshata in some other cases. So, thank you.